Hello and welcome to the 7th ever episode of Press A2 Podcast. I'm your host, Jakub Pujic, and with me today is Scott McPherson.
Hey.
Brandon Williams.
Yep.
Taylor Severn.
Hey.
And Mike Murphy.
Hello!
It's Christmas!
Tomorrow. Christmas.
It's
Special Christmas edition!
It's Christmas whenever
it's
you watch
Christmas Eve.
Whenever
It's
somebody
the
watches
eve
this
before
video,
Christmas.
it's Christmas.
But is it?
Yes. Yes. So
Maybe
it
we need a
is
haircut.
indeed Christmas, and it is indeed the 7th episode of the podcast. And
We're still counting?
we are, yes we are. And indeed, we're doing Resident Evil today.
The most Christmassy game we could ever think of.
They all take place during Christmas, little known fact.
Especially 5.
No, Scott. This one.
I don't know what that is.
I think that's a remake of the first one.
It is.
This
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
This shit
This
sandwich. You showed it off before, and that's what you said.
Both Brandon and Mike are correct. So I think we should start with what are you drinking, A, and B, your first memory of Resident Evil.
Who goes first?
Scott.
I am not drinking anything.
Mm-hmm.
You are gonna be
And
one
my
hard
first
son of a
Resident
bitch.
Evil would have been, I don't know, one of my friends brought Resident Evil 5 over to my house, and I played it for like 2 hours and hated it. It was mostly because I couldn't stand like the aiming mechanics, and it just drove me mental.
Definitely. And that's something we're definitely going to talk about. But, Brandon,
I'm gonna go back and say I do not remember my first memory because I was probably like 6 when I played it.
and just
Wow.
The game came out in
Just
like
some
off
95,
your rocker
96 or
on
something.
Jack. Just
Yeah.
completely
but-
fucked at 7 years old.
Well, yeah. I mean,
We're we all?
it's how I am today.
It's
Wow.
who he is, who he is.
Yeah, I was
Good
probably like
for
6
that.
when I played the game the first time, so I have no idea. What's your
But-
other question?
What do you
What were you drinking?
Oh, water. Because it's only 3 in the afternoon. In another an hour and a half, I might be drinking something like this.
Oh, you bastard. I'm totally wearing the sweater now, too.
I see it.
Yeah, we should mention that we're
Yeah.
doing this podcast super special early because it's Christmas and we have
Yes.
shit to do.
And we have families
Yeah.
to family with.
Like
What's
drink,
around?
get drunk
But
with.
I guess if Brandon doesn't remember and won't come up with another
I won't.
memory, Taylor, do you have any memories of Resident Evil?
I have only one distinct memory of me actually interacting with the franchise, and that was when me and my friends played Resident Evil 5 together. We did complete it. We're probably going to complete it someday. And we played it, we laughed, we learned, and we're probably going to play another one, because why not? Yeah.
Okay. Well, after this podcast, you'll know which ones to play and which ones to never, ever touch.
Ah, fuck that. We're just going to go in order.
That's the
Speaking
worst
of,
thing to
of
do
things
ever.
not to touch, Mike.
Oh, well.
Well, he hasn't bathed
Well.
today, so.
This is true. I'm on vacation.
Fuck it.
I don't give a shit.
He ain't bathing till January.
That's right. I'm gonna be a smelly motherfucker.
Till the new year, man.
Yeah. Your wishes don't come true unless you don't bathe. You know.
This is true fact.
Yep.
You could learn a lot from this guy.
It
Now you
washes
know.
away the wishes.
This
Yeah,
Now
exactly.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. The
you wash
wishes
away the
actually
dirt and underneath
grow
the wishes.
stronger. Yeah. Anyway, so the answer to the first question is I am not drinking anything either, but I have cashews.
Oh.
They're unsalted, so I won't get too parched if I start munching on them.
Good call.
Yes. My first experience was Resident Evil 4, actually, my buddy's house. We played it on the PS3, I think, or PS2. I don't even know.
Can I ask what year?
I have no idea.
Was it a
I don't
while ago,
know.
or was it?
It was probably 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
I don't even know when the game came out, but yeah, I wasn't familiar with the controller
the PlayStation controller. I've been purely Xbox. So basically, I had no idea what the hell I was doing, and they're like, "Run this way." So I run this way, and I run into a dock, and then some giant fucking monster thing jumps out of the lake and eats me, and I'm like, "Fuck this
Yeah.
game!" Yeah. And they just stand there laughing. I'm like, "You guys are assholes." And then I picked up Resident Evil 5 several years later, beat it once, and never touched it again until last week, I think.
Nice.
And I remembered how shitty it was.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Alrighty.
And there you have it.
Full of poop.
Myself, I guess well, it's pretty obvious. I am the drunkard of the show, so I'm drinking.
It's
I'm
your
glad you're an
water.
alcoholic.
It looks like water.
It's not.
Isn't Polish like vodka and water are the same word, pretty much?
Pretty close.
They both have the same meaning.
Doesn't
Drink it
Isn't-
a lot.
vodka is Russian for water or something like
Polish water.
Polish water. I don't know.
Getting away from the racism.
Anyways,
It's
it's fucking 3:30, by the way, viewers.
yeah.
And
so-
Jake
Mentioned the
pounded back the
second
liquor.
time.
We were having beers at work, so
You work today?
Yeah.
Oh man, I feel bad for you.
Did you drive? Because that's illegal.
I didn't have beer.
Don't
Yeah,
lie to
Jake's
me.
not a beer drinker.
What was I saying? Fuck. Resident Evil. We're doing a podcast. Yes. My first memory of Resident Evil was probably 4. It was in the house, and I played it, and it was awesome. 4, people pretty much agree, is the best of the series, and at the time I loved it. I hated scary movies, so I just never touched scary games. I picked this up, and it was great. Ever since then, I've always kind of dabbled in horror games. So it kind of opened me up to a whole series of games that I never would have touched otherwise. So I have fond memories of 4. But I think we could start maybe chronologically, unless you guys have anything you want to bring up. I was hoping to talk about the first Resident Evil, if anyone has experience with that.
Not really, no. I mean, that was the first game I played, but I don't remember shit about it.
That's bad camera.
It does have bad camera. That's right.
And it had very silly voice acting, if I remember.
That is true. The cinematics, the cinematics were all live action. The opening cinematics were all live action, and they were terribly acted. It's wonderful. If you want to laugh, go look them up. The camera, like you guys mentioned, probably most people agree with it's pretty shit. It's always from a fixed angle, so it's always when you walk into a room, it's always like in a corner or like right up in your face.
All up in your grill.
And it was
They had a lot of cheap scares in the game too.
yeah, lots of jump scares, but also
Yeah.
more kind of like
Gotcha.
I feel like the horror in the first one was pretty good. The horror in the first one was actually pretty good, especially with the remake that I was just holding up. Because of the camera angles, it builds a lot of tension because they're always like, just like in movies, they're always kind of like skewed and like in weird positions, and you're like, what the fuck is this? And it just kind of makes you feel tense already. And your character will be like just walking, and like you won't see where they're going, which by today's standards is awful. Like you always want to see where you're going, but like when your character slowly starts backing up and you don't see why, and they're like kind of scared, and then eventually like you get control again, and there's this zombie coming at you that just slightly off screen slowly. It's pretty scary. Also annoying,
Yeah.
but also sorry, the fixed camera angle also let them use pre-rendered graphics, which made the game look awesome, especially the remake. The remake's graphics are really good.
Did the
Are
remake
they?
still have the really shitty controls?
Yes. Resident
I thought
Evil, all Resident Evil games have wonky controls.
Well, they made it
Really?
a little better. In
A little
4.
better, but yeah, the remake of the original still has the old kind of like tank controls where you're either turning or you're walking forward. None of this diagonal movement.
Are we
blasphemy.
gonna bitch about controls right now?
We can talk about controls. Fuck, Fuck chronology.
Words.
Frump-a-dump.
Frump-a-dump. We're talking about controls.
Yeah.
So now is your time to bitch.
Well, I have like a whole mini rant that deals with the entire
Go.
game and it's all its
Do it.
mechanics.
And go Taylor.
Okay, so we all know that Resident Evil has horrible controls, and it stems from like feel like I'm fighting the controls more than the actual enemies within the games, because the actual like zombies are non-threats to me. They run at me, I just walk to the side, and I'm like, lol, that's cute. And like there are a horde of zombies, and I just like run through them. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Let's scavenge for scraps because you don't give me ammo.
Yeah.
And
Resident Evil 2 was the worst for that.
so like everything's such a non-threat, and I'm fighting the controls that they're like, okay, well, we still need like people to have a challenge in this game, so they add quick time events so you instantly die if you're not paying attention. And that's just so stupid that since nothing in the game is a threat, they have mechanics where you can just instantly die so that you feel threatened. I remember when I was watching a cinematic and there was a quick time event in the cinematic and I didn't do it, and so I had to start watching the cinematic again. I was like, that's a fucking waste of time. Why?
Holy.
Dude,
Valid points. Does anyone have anything to add to that or a rebuttal?
Well,
no, that's pretty
Yeah.
accurate.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, based on what, yeah. I mean, based on the short time I played it, yeah.
That's the podcast. There we go.
And end.
Well,
Christmas time.
It would be very interesting if there wasn't a discussion, and I'll at least try and kind of, like I said, rebut that. Basically,
You're what?
your first point with
He's a butt.
with the controls that you can just run by enemies. Yeah, you probably can. I'm trying to think of 4. I mean, in 4, it'll kind of lock you in an area or a room until you've dealt with the enemies. 2 and 3, I think you can.
Just like dodge them and just you don't run like the entire level. I'm just saying, like, if they come at you, you just walk to the left slightly, and then it's like, okay, now I'll kill you. Now I'll deal with you. Ugh.
Kind of true. On the harder difficulties, not even on the harder difficulties, just like I feel like, yeah, you can kind of dodge them, but eventually there's enough of them that they'll catch you. Also, the controls in that game are pretty clunky, so I'm surprised that you managed to dodge them, but I can kind of see your point. The reason for the controls is kind of because, and you're right, you are fighting them the entire time, and really the point of them at the beginning was to make it scary, because if you can, like you said, just dodge all the zombies and kind of parkour your way across the level to avoid them, then they're not scary. They're just obstacles. In the original game, you don't come across a zombie for a couple minutes. And the first one you see is just one. There's a small cutscene which, Mike, I think you'll love, where he's like feasting on this dude, and he kind of like slowly just turns around, and it's very, very slow, the entire scene, and then like he kind of just gets up, starts coming towards you, and you can either shoot him or run the fuck away. And that's perfectly valid, because if you shoot him, then you're wasting ammo, and if you run away back to the room where you were before, your partner, who unlike 5 or 6 isn't with you the entire time, he just kind of shows up every now and then, your partner will just blast him in the face. But it's all very slow. He comes after you, and he traces you past a door, which are all loading screens. So if you could just kind of like spin around him and like body slam him, like you could in a lot of other games, it wouldn't be as scary as opposed to this like creature that like you just meet for the first time. If you played it in '99, it was the first game of its time, and just like, what the fuck is this? Run away! So yeah. What were some of your other points?
Well, I'll rebuttal your rebuttal.
Okay.
Oh.
Double rebuttal!
In that, if I'm fighting the control, like in a video game, especially, or no, never mind what I was about to say, but in a video game, like you're kind of feel like you're that character. Like in Batman Arkham Asylum, you're Batman, and you want to feel like Batman.
I'm Batman.
And in Resident Evil, if you're fighting the controls, not the zombies, then it's like, well, I'm not really in a zombie apocalypse. I'm not in this city that's overrun by zombies or this mansion. I'm playing a video game trying to move this character, and it loses all sort of immersion. And without that immersion, I don't feel you can get a lot of fear from a game, especially or except for like jump scares.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The problem with Resident Evil is kind of the fact that
It's not first person, right? That
Yeah, that's a problem.
no, the problem with Resident Evil, especially nowadays, is that games have moved past it. What was scary back when the first Resident Evil came out is not scary anymore. The controls that they use aren't intuitive or fun by today's standards. And that's why I feel, while the first ones were so good and really like made this a huge franchise, 5 and 6 have just killed it because they won't move away from these controls. Their original idea with it was, like I said, that you kind of had to focus on the zombies and you really had to be, it slowed the game down. But nowadays people don't want that, A, and B, the controls were bad to begin with, and now that they don't serve a point to slow the game down because they're just throwing zombies at you and they try to want to make it an action game, but they're still using these shitty controls, it makes absolutely no sense. So you're right, the game suffers from these controls. There was a purpose to them originally, but not anymore. They're like an appendix. It's just like, why do I have this?
to answer your earlier question, I then moved on to QuickTime events.
QuickTime events, yes.
They
So
suck.
those came around with Resident Evil 4. Again, I can't remember what year that was. I want to say 2004, but back when those came out, those were new. Resident Evil was one of the first games that had it, and it was basically just a way to keep you on edge, kind of like kind of put you on tilt, really, because like you were used to, oh, it's a cinematic, okay, I'll sit down, I'll leave the TV and go get a snack or something because the cinematic's playing, and then all of a sudden it says press A and you're like, what the fuck, I've put the controller down, and then you die, you're like, what the fuck was that? So it constantly keeps you on edge because there's no safe point. It's always, oh, it's a cutscene, I can't walk away, I have to pay attention because I might have to do something.
Yeah, it immerses yourself into the game a lot more than
the
old style of cutscenes.
Can I rebuttal that?
In a second, because I think I'm going to say what you're going to say.
Okay, go for it.
Because at the time that was cool. It was interesting. It was new, and then lots of other games did it, and people soon realized why it was awful because it's boring. It's literally, it's not like the rest of the game where it's like, oh, I should move over here and like shotgun this group of enemies and like go into them and kick them, and you're not making any decisions. It's just, oh, press A.
Press A to not die.
Waggle the stick. It's really boring. So again, kind of like the controls, they had a reason to do it, and it worked at the time, but it wasn't fun, especially once lots of other games started doing it and doing it better. Would you agree with that, or do you have something else?
I was going to bring up, like, there are some good examples of, like, what QuickTime events can do. And I'd bring up, like, the first God of War game. I feel that had okay QuickTime events where it was, like, executions where you killed something that you killed something in some crazy, gruesome way. Like, you jump on its face and rip at its eyeball. Yeah. And that's something you can't normally do in combat. So that's something really special that you can pull off. You don't need to do it. It's just a nice bonus that you can do. Well, QuickTime events in this game is fairly bad because the game is so boring and so not interesting that they have to keep your attention or else you'll die and have to start the cinematic again. I'm not hung up on that.
Valid point.
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, and you're right. Was there anything else that you were talking about, or was...
I don't think so. Yeah, that's all from that rant. Could be more.
Is there another
let's continue
rant?
The podcast. Oh, shall we move on to Resident Evil 2?
I guess if we're going to go with a loose chronology of it, whereas 1 kind of started the survival horror genre along with games like Afraid of the Dark and stuff like that. 2 kind of just built it on it, and it was still, at least regarded by most people, as a very good entrance into the series. I never played it, so I can't really talk about it. Does anyone have some experience with it? Or are you just going to pick your nose, Scott?
I'm picking my nose.
I don't think we have a lot of experience with Resident Evil 2, although I know that it's very iconic,
Nose
and it
is
has
itchy.
a lot of iconic things from things. Like, it has that one enemy that shows up that people like. I don't know his name.
That's
like-
3, which I do have a little bit of experience with. But 2,
I swear it
basically,
was 2.
the story was where in the first one you're in a mansion, basically the entire game. 2, you're in a city. And there's lots of plot
Raccoon
twists.
What was
City.
it? That's
and all
like
this crap.
it's like Luigi's Mansion.
Yay!
And then 3,
I did play that game.
if we're gonna move on to that, was the one that introduced Nemesis, which was this big
Yeah.
thing.
Oh,
Actually, that kind of opens up a different topic of the different mechanics in each of the games. I'll start off with 1 because no one else has played it. But if you guys can talk about 4, 5, and 6, if you guys have experience with that. But yeah, in 1, kind of the whole scare was. Oh, did we lose Taylor?
We did lose Taylor.
yes, sir.
Oh well, we lost Taylor. Sorry.
My computer crashed.
Hey! Okay. Just
Recovered pretty quick.
Yeah.
No, I moved to an iPod.
Oh.
still quick. But yeah, moving on. In 1, it was very slow and methodical. There would be bodies on the ground. Sometimes they'd come up, sometimes they didn't. But even if you shot a zombie and brought it down, because there's lots of backtracking in that game, it would always just be there. And every now and then it would just get up and start killing you again, which made it really, really tense. It was really scary and I really loved it. The one way to destroy zombies was to burn their bodies. But you only had a limited number of fuel to do that with. And you could only carry so much. There was another aspect of the game which was inventory management, which was like, okay, do I want to take this ink ribbon, which was used for a typewriter to save, because you couldn't just save whenever you wanted. You had to use this item. And there's this limited amount, which made it really tense, because it's like, fuck, I did all this cool stuff, and I'm low on health. I should probably save right now, but I only have like 2 ribbons left. What if I need, or I only have this 1 ribbon left? Will I need it more later?
Probably. But that's a chance you need to take.
Yeah. So yeah, like those are kind of the mechanics. 2, I think just built off those, kind of made it more like an open environment because it was in a city. And 3's mechanic was that there's this.
Hold on, I need to stop you. 2, there was also the whole deal with like multiple scenarios with the characters.
Yes.
Where you'd have like scenario A with Claire and Leon, and then you also had another scenario after you beat the first one, which was, they called it scenario B, which a bunch of other things could happen depending on how you played scenario A.
Yeah. That's kind of, it's been used throughout the Resident Evil series. Actually, you're right.
It wasn't used in 1 though.
1 has it.
1 was all the same. Like, you would use different characters, but you played the exact same scenario.
It was almost the same. There was differences.
I think they remade it with because I know the first one, I think it was literally the whole like the same. And then yeah, the remake there, I think they changed it up a bit.
No, even in the original, it was
Really?
you chose between Chris Redfield and
Yep.
Jill Valentine. I think somebody. Anyways, and there was slight differences. Like in Chris's campaign, you're mostly alone. It's a little harder, but you're physically
that's
stronger,
right.
so you can
Yeah.
move stuff. As Jill, you could pick locks. You are the master of unlocking, which is a well-known line from that game. So yeah, there was differences, and that's something that they do throughout lots of the games. 2, you're right, has that. I think they kind of fleshed that out more.
Yeah.
3, again, I don't know, I didn't play it, but the big mechanic in it was that there's a big Titan kind of character that always follows you, and unlike most of the other
Tyrant.
zombies, yeah, the Tyrant, he'll follow you through doors. So you basically, and you couldn't kill
He was
him.
in Resident Evil too, as well, in the second scenario.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was. I think he was introduced in the first one, but it was a different form of a tyrant. I don't remember.
I didn't know that. Yeah, so you
There's
couldn't
all
kill
kinds of
him. You
forms.
just had to
It's
hide
crazy.
from him, which was, again, their tension / scary mechanic. And then 4, which of you have played 4?
I've played 4.
Mike, you
Nope.
played it briefly.
I was gonna.
Not
play
even really.
four.
Brain, so
But my-
what can you tell us about 4?
Not a whole lot.
Great.
I mean, it was my favorite out of the games. Other than that, I mean, it's just a Resident Evil game, and I have a cool memory with it.
Please
Sort
share.
of. I mean, me and a friend of mine, we got it, and we decided to do a speed run of Resident Evil 4.
Nice.
Yeah. A terrible mistake on my part, but this guy's like a champion. He did it in 4.5 hours, like the whole
Jesus.
fucking game.
That's impressive.
So he killed like nothing.
Oh yeah, you just run. It's literally all it is, with those goddamn tank controls running through shit.
Yeah. So Resident Evil 4, I guess I'm going to be the one talking through this one again. Resident Evil 4 completely revitalized the series. Whereas 1, 2, and 3 were all from fixed perspectives with these shitty controls. Resident Evil 4 brought in a new camera. It was 3D. It was really revolutionary at the time, which is why everyone loved that game, which was like...
And it was only on GameCube.
Yes, it was only on GameCube for quite a while, and then that
Yeah, like
exclusive
2 or
went
3
away.
years or something like that.
Yeah, and then now it's on everything. You can get it on the iPad. There's a PC version that came out
It just
recently.
came out on PC.
Well, there was a PC version earlier, but it was absolute shit. It was awful.
It wasn't an official version.
Wasn't
That's
it?
the problem. No.
I-
It came out in February.
The copy I tried to get was an
Like this
official
year.
PC version. But
It's on
just-
Steam.
Yeah, but I didn't want to pay for it.
So you're
I
waiting for it to
mean-
fall magically on your lap. Yeah. So 4, it introduced this new camera behind the shoulder system. It had really cool aiming, especially at the time. Nowadays, if you went back to play it, it's kind of clunky, but back then, it was revolutionary. Like no other game did this. And then
It also had a boss called El Gigante,
El Gigante,
Jesus.
which kind of looked like Smeagol from Lord of the Rings.
except for he's like
He's massive, yeah.
Yeah, they later on in the game you had to fight 2 of them. Actually, that's a boss fight I really remember because you can either there's 2 of them and you're like in this ring, and you can either drop one of them into a pit of lava to make it easier, but then you lose out on his treasure, or you fight them both. I did it the hard way, and it took me a lot of retries. But yeah,
Did they drop a ring?
they drop a what?
Ring.
They dropped a
Philosopher's
gem,
Stone.
actually, pretty close.
Not close enough.
The Philosopher's Stone.
Oh,
Good God.
You're mixing up the things, mixing up the franchises.
Stirring the pot. Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, so 4 was revolutionary for its camera. It still kept the great atmosphere.
Its
you were-
inventory too. It was a lot better.
it was almost like a Diablo inventory, right?
Yeah.
It
I
was
mean,
cool.
you had to do that inventory Tetris kind of thing, trying
Yeah.
to fit everything in.
Just like in the originals, inventory was huge in that game because it builds
Yeah.
tension. Like, yeah, I want this shotgun because it's awesome, but then I won't have room for all these health potions or whatever, or I won't have room for all my ammunition because ammunition takes up room as well.
Yep.
Made it
Who's
just
going
another tension builder.
Into a robot. You're turning into a robot, Jacob.
Not on my end.
Okay, cool.
Now you were good on mine.
That's the important part.
Yes.
But yeah, so Resident Evil 4, most people will agree, is pretty revolutionary. It had the
It's like the
QTEs. Nowadays, its controls are pretty bad, but yeah.
And
Yeah.
then 5 was just a turd sandwich.
Yes,
Ooh.
we'll move on to 5. Mike, I feel like you have some pretty strong feelings on it, so why don't you enlighten us?
Some pretty strong feelings.
I played 5.
Okay, well.
Excellent, so we can all shit on it at once.
Why did we all play the worst one?
Because that was like 4 came out, and it blew everyone out of the water. Like 4 is the best game. You can literally
Yeah.
look up online best games of all times, and it'll be somewhere on that list, number 4.
Yeah, I've
So
heard
everyone
good
was waiting on 5, and it came out, and it was awful. And so everyone played it and realized, oh, it's really bad. Mike?
Yep. Well, I mentioned in the previous podcast how I find you open the disc, it says Resident Evil 5 on the disc. Okay, I'm gonna put that disc in the Xbox, and then the main screen comes up and it says Resident Evil 5. Okay, I can read. Excellent. Press start. It says Resident Evil 5. Jesus Christ, I know a fucking game I'm playing. I don't need that bullshit. But anyways, that's just me.
Just,
Or
just
maybe
little
it's
things. Little things that build up.
Stupid shit. All right, whatever. Gameplay-wise, running and shooting simultaneously is vital, and you can't do that. I hate that. Even when you're trying to like smash open a box with your knife, you're like, I can't. I miss. Bullshit. Another one. Chris is a douchebag, and I can't like a game if you're playing a character that's a douchebag. Like
I
say,
don't
want to
remember that.
escape
Do you have-
reality,
Do you have a
right?
more specific?
I want to escape reality.
Thank you, Brandon.
yeah, Chris.
If you showed something personal, I'm not blurring it.
It was
I
all
think it
Your
was
one.
social insurance number was on that screen right there.
Yeah,
Sucks to be you.
all the things.
He's
Yeah,
just gonna
Mike.
zoom in on it and blow it up. That's it. Sell it for $5 on the black market.
That's all they're worth nowadays. It took a
Yeah.
big
Yep.
crash.
That was
Anyways.
Resident Evil being on the
Yeah.
top 100 games
So,
list.
Mike, you were going on about the
Um,
controls.
I think boxes.
for instance, a good game like Halo. Everybody likes the Master Chief because he's badass as fuck. And granted, in the first game, he didn't have a whole lot of dialogue, but they sort of made him talk more in the second, third, and so on and so on. But you're playing somebody who you enjoy playing. Whereas in Resident Evil 5, I don't like Chris. He's a douchebag. So I don't care if he gets sawed in half with a chainsaw. I don't care.
I played as
Or if
the
he gets
girl.
like... Oh, you played online?
No,
Did
I
you
was
do
playing a split screen co-op. So I was the
Ah.
girl.
She's retarded. The
I
AI
forget her
that
name.
plays her,
The AI is
Sheva.
really
her
bad.
name's Sheva.
I'm
Yes.
probably not that much better.
Shiva Amor.
She's garbage.
I have one brief interlude for that. I kept getting distracted by her breasts, so I literally had to put body
God
armor
damn.
on her so I could play the game.
She doesn't even have.
She has
ain't got nothing.
giant breasts.
Mike is so desensitized by like playing like Dragon Age, all this other stuff.
Dead or Alive volleyball.
But yeah,
King's Quest.
Not only are Sheva's breasts giant, Chris from the first game, he's in the first game. To number 5, he takes some ridiculous gorilla roids because he is huge in that game. He is massive.
His biceps are bigger than his fucking head.
Yeah,
He
and
saw
then-
Gears of War and was like,
I can
"That's
do
what
that.
I want to grow up to be."
I can do that. And
when
then he
I'm
did
older.
it. And in 6, I swear he's bigger. But yeah, he's ridiculous. And I did not really enjoy playing as him. He was dumb. Whereas in 4, you're playing a character from the second game called Leon. And
The Great
he's-
Leon.
He's cool. I mean, the game's really cheesy. All the stories for Resident Evil, which we'll get to, are awful. They're just like, ugh. And it was really corny and cheesy, but you kind of grew to like him. Whereas 5 had none of that. Chris was just like really boring. I didn't get any of the douchebag. Wesker's fucking stupid. But
Wesker.
I have a British accent. I'm from the Matrix. But
Are we complaining about Wesker now?
He's also a douchebag.
yeah, he is. He is
Okay.
legit douchebag.
He
But-
too is a douchebag.
So
Yeah.
you fight him in 5, right? There's a
You,
boss fight with
you
him.
kill
Yeah.
spoilers if you haven't played 5, but who cares because that story is stupid.
Okay, so I haven't finished it.
You kill him in 5. You finally deal with Wesker.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he has like super speed, right?
He's from the Matrix.
Yeah.
He is the one.
And that fight was so stupid because he'd like super speed appear in front of you and then do like this slow kick, and then I'm like, okay, I'll just back up slightly. Okay, thanks, brah.
Yeah,
You suck.
it's
And
really
it
dumb.
doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Five is a bad game for sure.
It really feels like the boss is like letting you win. He's not trying. He stops in front of you. It's like, I could like kick you at the speed of light, but fuck it.
I want to
I
give
could
you a
literally
chance.
punch through your head.
I can fly or something. I don't know. I have
Yeah.
very ill-defined powers.
Jesus.
It's
Yeah.
really
I feel like we can kind of transpose that Wesker's a bad character and he makes really dumb choices into the rest of the game because they made really bad choices. They took the mechanics from 4 and didn't update them. They made it more actiony, which made the mechanics, especially the controls, even worse. It's not scary most of the time, actually at all, ever. It's just gross, because you're out in the daylight most of the time. Okay, maybe that's not true, but for a large part of the game, you're out in the desert. The most memorable parts of the game, which is a cool visual kind of thing. Like, oh, there's like zombies in the desert, but they didn't really do anything with it. There was a huge racism thing with it, which we, please, for the love of God, won't get into. But yeah, it was just it took all the worst parts of 4 and then like put it in the worst possible situation for it, and then gave you co-op, which was maybe the only redeeming thing about that game.
not
The only
really.
reason I played it.
Co-op makes everything better. It's not.
Unfortunately, that's not true.
Battletoads.
Diablo. That game's awful,
God, worst fucking game ever.
but
Never
Because
played
of
it.
you. It's all your fault.
I didn't do anything.
No, you're okay.
So yeah, 5. I'm trying to think. Yeah, the only redeeming graces for 5 was that it was co-op. They tried to make some improvements with the inventory system, but it basically took away the only part of 4 that I really, really loved. For some reason, I loved the Diablo kind of Tetris shit.
That was retarded, actually, because a little egg would take up the same amount of space as a giant
Rocket
fucking
launcher.
RPG.
yeah,
Yeah.
they needed to fix that, but I mean, the
Logic
whole, like,
and shit.
yeah.
Yeah, that it was stupid. So yeah, I guess that kind of sums up 5. It was stupid.
Before we leave 5, can I complain about another boss fight?
the
Yes.
There are
Fish Man,
several shitty boss fights in that one.
all the boss
Um,
fights, they're awful.
Pretty much, but one specifically is that you're going down this hallway, and then this giant monster comes out, and it's like, oh man, this is scary. This giant monster, I gotta avoid this shit. And then the monster slowly like crawls to you, and you're in this room that's like a circle, and so it's like, okay, I'll just walk around the circle, and the
That
monster
boss.
just follows you slowly, very slowly. And you can press a button, and it sets part of the room on fire, and it's like, I wonder what the fuck I'm supposed to do now. Stupid.
I locked Sheva in there once and killed her, and was very pissed off.
That it didn't let you continue, right?
Yeah, she's like, I don't give a damn. Just keep going. Keep going.
Yeah.
She was going to get infected anyways.
Shut up! You literally met like 5 minutes ago. Shut up.
God.
Yeah, that's the first boss
We're in
battle, isn't it?
Wrong tense on that one.
Oh.
But yeah,
But yeah, all the boss battles in 5 have insanely obvious weak points. Like, even the camera will zoom up and say, see this orange blob in the middle of this black mass? I wonder if you need to shoot this little orange thing, because that's the different part of the thing. And
does
Yeah.
it have a giant orange glowing eye? Shoot it.
Yeah.
I think I was telling you at one point, the end boss of 4, he becomes like a tarantula thing, and all its spider leg joints are eyeballs. Guess what you have to
they
shoot?
bring that back.
Yeah,
The
They bring that back.
eyeballs.
all the time. Like, they just recycle the same shit. It's very gross out in 4. Yes, there was lots of really gross things just for the sake of being gross, but they were cool because like of either the setting or the way they used them. Like, they're one of the first bosses, I think like the 3rd act boss, turns into like a giant centipede man, and you're in a burning building with him, and you're just like, well, first he looks kind of weird because he's just like this kind of like lolling centipede dude, but he's still kind of intimidating, and then you shoot him and he splits in half eventually. You're like, oh, I killed him, and then no, he just becomes this flying centipede monkey man, and he's like up in the rafters trying to kill you, and it's actually scary. Like it's spoopy.
You don't want him to jump on you.
Spoopy.
Yes, spoopy.
Spoopy.
But then in 5, one of the, I think at the first act boss again, it turns into a huge fish monster, and it's so stupid. But do you remember that?
No.
No, you don't.
Or
Oh
was
my
it
god,
into
it's
the
the
game?
most. It's one of the most ridiculous bosses.
Was it spoopy?
It was so spoopy. But
Is that when you like scare yourself so hard you poop? Spoopy?
Spoopy. That's what I thought it meant.
I thought it was
Amazing.
afraid of poop. That's why he was afraid of
Or
this
maybe it's
Resident Evil
really
game, 'cause
scary.
it's so poop.
But I think we should probably move on.
Like it's
from-
that
from
poop you
5.
have that's just like really scary.
Okay, so 6,
Fuck,
right?
6. Yes. Does anyone have any experience with 6?
I never
Blowjobs,
played it.
No. I heard some parts were better than the 5th one, but ultimately it's still pretty shitty.
Okay. So no one played it.
I watched.
I'm not going back to
a
Resident Evil
while
after,
ago,
so.
but I don't remember
So
it.
Mike, exactly. After 5, I feel like this is pretty indicative. After 5, people are like, oh, this series is bad, and they kind of left it again. 6, I don't know how well it did financially, but again, it was critically a failure. Basically, they tried to fix what made 5 bad, but didn't really know what it was, so failed. They kind of split it into 3. They almost tried to make 3 different games. There was one campaign which was Leon and some new girl, I think her name was Helena, which tried to be like more like the old Resident Evils, where you're in a confined area and it's more slow, and like more like kind of like what this like scary thing is about to happen, that kind of tension. But they fucked it up because it's lots of action and QTE moments. The second kind of campaign was with Chris and another new character, which is just like it was 5 again. It was lots of action shooting with giant guns, just, and like you're literally a soldier. Like you're playing as a soldier in that game, or in that campaign. And then the third campaign was basically just everything everyone hated from 4, which was the QTEs, plus a lot of running. You're basically just running the entire. It's all just like one scripted event. And then there was a secret campaign with Ada, which was kind of basically the same as the Leon campaign. So they tried to make 3 different games. They failed at all 3 because they still don't understand, like, you can't have these shitty controls and these QTEs and all these other mechanics that were popular like 5 years ago and try and make it an action game. They just can't understand that.
That's something they brought back in 6 was the quick time events.
Oh, it was in 5 too.
was-
Like 10 years
Oh,
ago
I know,
at
but
this
I mean
point.
they really like
Oh yeah,
jumped
yeah.
into it in 6. Like
Yeah, for some reason in
amped it
6
up.
it's just QTEs all the fucking
Yeah.
all day. So yeah, 6 is no better than 5. It's just bigger and crazier. The story in 6 is ridiculous, which I think can bring us on to maybe our last topic. We'll see how it goes. But the story of Resident Evil. Does anyone have any fond memories of the story in Resident Evil? Or know anything about it?
I don't know what the
Yeah,
fuck is
that's
happening.
what I was gonna ask. Was like, does
Umbrella Corporation makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
How do they make money if they keep trying to destroy the world?
Mm-hmm.
they make money because they're funded by all the major organizations of the world.
To destroy it.
Yeah.
I basically, my understanding was like Umbrella makes medicine, and then also
Yeah,
they
they're a
make,
pharmaceutical company.
They make zombies, and they use it to, and they give it to different, like, at first states, and then to get different terrorist organizations as the new like biological weapon. Because I guess the theory is like, oh, what if we can turn the enemy's dead into our soldiers? But it just
Well,
ends up
that's
making
what
monsters.
a tyrant is the bio like organic virus thing. Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, but it's stupid and silly, and that's just like that one premise. The stories of the games start from like, oh, like this is kind of cool, like this incident, and you don't really know what's going on, and then it gets incredibly convoluted. In some of them, it's kind of like, okay, fine, I'm just along for the ride, and make it more crazy. But then, especially 5 and 6, take themselves really, really seriously, and they're just more and more ridiculous stories.
Yeah, I really don't know the story behind 5 and 6. I know like up to 4, and then that's about it.
Um, well, I mean, I can fill you in. Mike, do you want to take 5?
In 5,
Shouldn't. Did we start at 1?
We'll get to 1 we'll get to the good ones later. We'll continue.
Shouldn't
shooting
we
in 5 and
start
6.
chronologically if this is the story?
Yeah,
No.
let's go chronologically. Fill me in later.
Nah. Okay, you're right. So first of all, in 1, basically what happens, again, it's convoluted. I can't remember all the different twists and turns, but the basic premise is you're not a secret. You're an elite police force sent into a mansion because something is going on there and no one knows what it is. And the first team that got sent in lost radio contact. So you go in there, you find they've all been killed. There's zombies. It's actually done pretty well. If you can play 1, because it is actually a scary game.
The force your police force is the Special Tactics and Rescue Service.
Also known
Stars.
as Stars. Yes.
Yeah.
So you're going through, clearing out the mansion, and basically throughout the process you discover it's owned by one of the founders, I believe, of Umbrella Corps, which is making the zombies. I believe he was not Wesker. Wesker is actually your team leader. You don't know that he's a bad
Warren
guy.
or something like that, isn't it?
Wesker what?
Warren?
I think
something?
Wesker is his first name. I don't know what his second name is.
Is it?
No, Wesker's his last name. I don't know what his first name is then. But either way, yeah, Wesker.
Albert.
Albert
Name's
Wesker.
Albert.
Yes. Wesker's your team leader. Throughout the course of events, it turns out he's a traitor. He actually works for Umbrella Corps, and he led you there, so to try and test this experiment. He ends up dying, but he injects himself. So you think he's dead, but he comes back in other games. And you just find out in this mansion is all a bunch of different biological experiments have gone wrong. And the founder he kind of betrayed the company, so they fucked him over back, and they made him a monster. And it gets kind of crazy. And then you end up flying away on a helicopter, and that's 1. All the shit went down. And then in 2, I think it takes place fairly quickly afterwards, which is you're in Raccoon City.
Takes place in Raccoon City. Yeah.
Yes, which is close to the mansion. Basically, the infection from the mansion, I can't remember how exactly, but it spreads to the city, and people start turning into zombies and all this shit. So you're playing as Leon, and you're trying to get out before the U.S. government nukes the place to kind of eradicate the problem.
Yeah.
As you find out. And again, you find out more about the company, about with their dealings and all this inter stuff. You find Sherry Birkin, I believe her name is, which was I want to say another founder, or the founder from the first game's daughter.
Yeah, it's the daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of help her along. She kind of goes along with you, and you save her. You find out
the
her,
movie.
Yeah. Her dad kind of sorry, I think this is the one where her dad kind of betrayed the company, and they turn him into a monster, and he kind of chases you for a while. And that's basically it too. You get out of the city before it gets nuked, and you find out more.
By the way, I hate those fucking followers, especially that little girl. Because if you run too far away from her, she just sits and cries in a corner.
Again, to me that's kind
He
of
becomes a witch.
Yes, from Left 4 Dead.
But yeah. I feel like it's more of a tension building mechanic, but especially nowadays it just feels annoying. But yeah, you're right. 3 I think still takes place in Raccoon City at the same time, but with different characters. And you're being chased by the Nemesis. I don't know anything about the story of that game, so I'm just gonna skip it. 4 is completely
Well, at the end
separate.
of 3, they bomb it. The U.S. government actually does nuclear bomb
Yeah.
Raccoon City.
That happens at the end of 2 as well. They actually blow up Raccoon City with a nuke. 4 is kind of tangential to the stories. Basically, you're playing as Leon again from the second game. You're now a Secret Service agent, and the president's daughter was kidnapped, and she was sighted in some Spanish town. So you go there, and you find, surprise, people are zombies. Well, they're not zombies. Sorry, they've been infected with a virus. They're not zombies. They're still alive. They're just kind of controlled by the virus. So yeah, you go through and just try and rescue the president's daughter. There's a side mission in that game where you play as Ada Wong, which is another character introduced in 2. which is a secret, or which is a double agent of all these different company conspiracies and all this bullshit. This is kind of dragging on, so I'll give you the really quick synopsis. Wesker wants a virus that is infecting the people from 4, so we can make them better. It comes out again in 5. Leon and a couple other people have made a organization to battle all these zombies because they're getting too much. So 5 is just you realizing that like, hey, Umbrella might be finished, but like all these other companies still have the technology. And 6 is a terrorist organization gets this technology and blows up China.
Oh shit!
Well, not China, Hong Kong, or something like that. But yeah, and that's
Just
the basic
all of
story.
China,
That's really the gist of it.
Pretty much.
There, I rambled for 15 minutes. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No, rambling's good.
That's a stupid story.
It is. Basically, like I said, the stories in the Resident Evil games range from silly to annoying and plotting, kind of like my rant. They like, if you want to get into the lore, it's kind of cool, but it gets really convoluted really quickly. So it's best to
very
just
complicated.
It's best to just shoot the zombies and get scared.
Might I
if
make
it's
a final
stupid
comment?
Story, then
Yeah, I
it
think we should
ruins
start
the
wrap-
immersion.
Sorry, Taylor.
If it's a stupid story, then it ruins the immersion and it loses all sense of fear.
Well,
Well, it's
You
not
need
a
that
stupid
immersion.
story. I mean,
It's
if you
convoluted.
really want to get into all the backstory, it's out there and it's fucking great.
yeah,
But,
it's kind of like Halo if we want to go all the way back to that, like where like
Yeah.
you can just go around shoot these zombies, and then if you want to dig into it, like there's actually some cool lore in it. It's just from 1, it's kind of ridiculous because like there's like a giant bio weapon snake and it's huge. And it's like that's kind of silly, but like it is scary when you're playing it. And then in 2, it's kind of the same thing. 4 is getting kind of ridiculous because there's like a character who's basically Caesar. He's like maybe 4 feet tall. And like all this wacky stuff happens. In 5, it gets really ridiculous because like there's the Fishman, and like all these companies are warring. And 6 is actually like there's like a whole terrorist plot, and like the wars are happening, and like they've brought in the army and shit, and it just gets really ridiculous about like something that was kind of like a silly story to begin with. They take it too seriously.
Yeah, Capcom really blew Resident Evil up.
Yeah, even the movies are shit.
Like
man.
Raccoon City!
But yeah, Mike, you
Merry
wanted to say something?
Christmas!
Raccoon City is a metaphor for the Resident Evil franchise.
Did you know Resident Evil was actually called Biohazard when
In
it first came
Japan,
out?
it is called
Yeah.
Biohazard. Yes.
Yeah, I think I knew that.
And they couldn't call it Biohazard in the States because of,
Copyright
People would
laws.
actually think it's a biohazard.
exactly.
Yeah,
So they
the
named
reason
Resident-
Resident Evil is called Resident Evil is because the first game takes place in a mansion.
Yeah.
So it's Resident Evil. And
It
none
was
of the
kind of
other
a
games take place in
cheesy
a mansion.
joke in The Office.
Yeah, and none of the other
Yeah,
games
yeah.
take place in a mansion, so that's the title makes no sense, but no one really questions it because it's like, oh, well, whatever.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Shoot zombies.
Nobody
Why
gives
is that
a shit.
hill so silent? I don't know.
The town was called Silent Hill.
Yeah, that one actually has a reason.
Raccoon City. The subtitle of Raccoon City is Resident Evil.
Sure.
There,
There's a
fixed
street.
it.
But yeah,
Fixed it.
Mike, you had a
I had one final complaint about the series being a
boy.
zombie game, and we all know to kill a zombie you have to shoot them in the head, and that's just not the case in Resident Evil games.
These are different.
You can-
concepts.
You have
They're
to
not
shoot off
zombies,
like the
they're-
limbs, right? The arms, the spiky
Yeah.
arms.
with
They're
your
actually
with your
not-
rivet gun.
Zombies. They're modified humans.
So
Which
they
is a
bleed.
stupid way of saying
I'll
they're
address both of
special
those
zombies.
things. I'll start with Brandon. 1 and 2, they are zombies, and 3, 4, they're humans that have been infected with a virus, so they're still alive.
Well, even in 1, it was the T virus that created them.
But
Which
they are zombies. They're reanimated dead. If we want to get nerdy about this.
I guess. I mean, the virus was
nerdy.
used on living beings.
Yeah, which killed them and then reanimated them.
Yeah. Okay.
In 4,
Thanks,
they're
Eric.
still alive.
Fair
Mike, I was gonna. Ah, fuck it.
He just walks away. Fuck this
Scott's
game.
turn next.
They're not
No.
zombies. Fuck it. So I think, Mike was saying, We lost Mike for a second. He'll be right back.
My laptop's gonna die soon.
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll start
okay, we're
wrapping
good.
up.
We're good.
Yeah, so he was saying about headshots. Basically, the reason they did that was because every other game, in every game, basically, if you headshot somebody, they die. In Resident Evil 4, they kind of tried to they tried to make it a little scarier by like, if you headshot somebody, there's a small chance. I almost want to say like a 30% chance that they'll actually get stronger. Like the virus actually comes out of where their head was, and like it makes the enemy stronger instead of killing it. Which is just a thing to make it a little scarier. Like in every other game, a headshot equals certain death, whereas in this one, there's a chance it actually does the complete opposite. Which is the reason they did that. It's a shame Mike wasn't here to see that, but I guess we can go start wrapping up the podcast with if we'll ever go back to the series or our favorite memories from it. So we'll start with Scott. What's your favorite, or what are you going to take away from this discussion?
Nice face.
To be honest, I still kind of do want to try out 4 because I've heard it's a good game.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I do ever get my copy of it to work, I'll probably try it out. But yeah, I mean, as of right now, my opinion towards the game, like as a series, isn't very high.
Okay, fair enough.
And that's mostly just because I've only had experience with 5.
Yeah. Brandon?
What?
Jesus Christ.
What are you gonna take away
I
from the
probably
discussion?
won't. I probably will not go back to Resident Evil. Just because I don't think they're going to improve on it, and I could just care less about the game, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a first-person shooter, so I don't give a shit.
Jesus Christ.
Taylor, how about you?
If I ever finish 5 with my friend, we'll probably play 6. But I do have 2 things to mention, and that is, I forgot the first one. So moving on to the second one. Oh my God,
point.
brain just died. Mike, go.
Mike.
Oh, okay.
Go. What are you going to take away from this discussion, basically?
I might play 4, but other than that, Resident Evil's done for me.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty much the consensus. I do want to add to that. If you can,
I figured out what I said.
I'll get back to you in a second. I do have this. Any of you are free to rent it if you have a GameCube.
I don't have a GameCube.
I do have.
Nobody has a GameCube.
I do have a game.
It's a remake of the original. It's the same controls, and it's the same fixed perspective. But it really shows you why at the time this was good. It is a really fun game with really fun mechanics. 2 and 3 kind of the same as that, so you can skip them. 4, again, you're right. All of you play it if you can. It really is a good game, even if the controls now are kind of archaic. Taylor?
I feel that like nowadays Resident Evil's not that strong of a game series, and it's only really going on because of it has inertia. There were Resident Evil games in the past, so there should be more in the future. Why not? Let's do that. And it's really not working. And there were some Resident Evil games where they fixed the controls, where like it controlled so well, and those are the on-rail shooters, and that is really telling of
Those games
the
are
quality
great.
of the franchise.
There's a couple Wii shooters out there of the Resident Evil franchise, and they're fucking awesome. They're so good.
And
What
that's
was ORC
my
about?
Which?
Operation Raccoon City?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I heard the game was god awful.
Wasn't it just a retelling of the like first?
It's
or
Raccoon
the 2 and
City.
3?
It's Raccoon City, where it's basically just a third-person shooter, like with
First
more
person?
with more up-to-date controls, but it was still awful. One thing. This podcast was basically on the mainline games for Resident Evil. We didn't talk about any of the other side ones, like the ones Taylor mentioned, the ones Scott mentioned. There was even a Game Boy game at one point. There's a lot of different Resident Evil games.
Yeah.
Mobile games. Yeah, there's all sorts. We kind of just talk about the main franchise. There are other games. Some of them are worth checking out. There was a one for 3DS called Revelations, which apparently was pretty good. It's getting a sequel. People are saying, maybe it'll be good. The GameCube ones were actually fucking awesome. Taylor, did you have anything else to add to that?
No, that's mostly my thoughts. It's not a good game franchise. It probably shouldn't continue.
Yeah.
Ooh.
No,
Ooh.
Taylor's right. I would agree.
No,
I do agree.
Me too.
The only thing that will get me interested in a Resident Evil game is if it goes along the vein of the new
The new
Silent
52.
Hills game. If anyone knows what PT or Silent Hills is,
Oh yes.
if it goes,
We
along
don't
like
really
that,
know what that's going to be like.
We don't.
We just
but
know the teaser.
We can hope. If it's in that vein of where we think, it's going, that'll be awesome. If they really take it back to like, oh, you're in a mansion again, and the very slow zombies, and like the atmosphere is slowly escalating. That would be
And it's
great.
just the same hallway. That'd be great.
Over and over again, but it's slightly different. It makes you poop your pants. Yeah. If it actually becomes a scary game again, I'd be interested.
Spoopy.
If it becomes a spoopy game again, I'll be interested. Otherwise, I've completely lost interest in the game. I didn't get 6. It looked just like 5, and I was right, except for it was even worse. So yeah, I'm kind of done with that series, unfortunately, because it really brought me into one of my newfound loves, which is scary games. But Dead Space took the place of that, and then they run that to the ground too.
Yeah.
Hey.
And we'll get on to that in another podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
So before we start signing off, I did want to tell our listeners we are going to take a break for the holidays, so it'll be a while before we come back on. We still haven't decided what game we'll be doing, so when the next episode after this one pops up, it'll be a surprise.
Surprise!
Surprise mystery New Year's one!
Yay!
Surprise, motherfuckers!
So yeah, if you guys have any comments, questions, suggestions for future games, please leave them in the YouTube comments, and that'll be the best place for them right now. Scott, any last words?
No, I think you pretty much said you answered all the questions I was gonna ask about it.
Awesome. That's
So-
that's what we're kind of here for. Brandon, what about you?
I got nothing.
Jesus Christ.
Taylor, any last words?
I have a YouTube channel called Views and Throughs, and if I do beat 5, I'll probably put up 6 with Bubble Hotep on my channel.
Awesome. I look forward to it. Make fun of the game mercilessly, and I'll love it.
Will do.
Mike, anything to say?
Spoopy.
Jesus Christ.
Better than last time!
I have no idea what my
Frank
next
Dunk.
video is going to be, so.
Do you want to pimp the channel?
Morbid Murph is frozen at the moment. Frozen in time.
What about Resident Evil?
Don't freeze it because of me.
It froze
This
over.
No,
could take
I-
a while.
Put up more Dead Space and I'll be happy.
Okay. I'll do that.
Yeah, until you have time to do stuff. But
Put up a Hearthstone video.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, God, no.
yeah,
I'll just rip it apart.
basically go check out Morbid Murph.
Imagine
There
the
are
views you
videos
get.
on there if you want to watch.
Yeah, some of my old videos are on there.
Yeah. Keep staying tuned to Press A to Podcast. That's where I'll be. And I guess we can end it with a have fun and
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. No, I can't do it. Good luck.